Hi, I'm Hayley Victoria and welcome back to my crime and policing channel. You may be wondering what that weird noise is that's happening outside. My neighbour's been having, some kind of massive argument with the bush, and they've been chainsawing that thing for about an hour and it doesn't look much different and they're just looking a bit sweaty. I also appreciate that I look a little bit like I've been dug up. That's because I do have COVID and it's affecting my beautiful appearance. Yeah, I know I'm not beautiful, but, you know, I look gross. That's fine, because that's COVID for you, right? At least I'm kicking. What we're going to look at today is biological theories of crime, and we're going to start looking at Cesare Lombroso. So Lombroso was one of the pioneers of criminology back in the olden days, back in the 1800s, in like the late 19th century. Lombroso was big on Atavism, and that's where he believed that criminals were like savage throwbacks to early man. His theories, of course, have been like poo-pooed since then because it's a load of rubbish, but it's interesting that we cover it because that tells us how things have developed over the years and what's impacted criminology over here in England and across the world. So Cesare Lombroso was not born in England, he was born in Italy, hence the beautiful name. If he was born over here, he'd been called something like, I don't know, Chris Smith or something, you know, quintessentially British. So yeah, Cesare Lombroso, 1835 till 1909 is when he passed away. Very colourful character. So in terms of his life, after the whole atavism and stuff, he started getting into like the paranormal stuff, so parapsychology, started looking at like sex in relation to crime and stuff. He was big into his different ways of thinking, and yeah, he did a lot of studies in terms of people he thought could see ghosts and stuff like that, which is unusual. But then again, back in the late Victorian and like early part of the 1900s, people were like super obsessed with death, and they'd have like seances and things all the way up until like the 20s and 30s. It was like an entertainment thing. Gruesome. Okay, so let's talk about Lombroso then. So Lombroso believed in something called atavism, which is where he said, like I said before, he thought criminals were savage throwbacks to early man. And that for you to commit crimes, he thought that you got something missing. You weren't as progressive and as clever as people who don't commit crimes. Right? Okay. Very unusual ways of thinking. And he was like, he was a military doctor, and while he was serving, he got like super interested in one guy. Before he was in the military field, you know, as an army doctor, he was working in what they called in those days lunatic asylums. Thankfully, we don't call them those anymore, and we don't treat people how they were treated back in those days. And he was kind of obsessed with that, looking at the differences with what he called lunatics, you know, people with mental capacity issues, and crime and criminals, or who he called normal. This is not a very nice guy. I know I'm like putting my bias on there for you, but I really don't appreciate things like that. You know, we all have mental health, and sometimes we have mental ill health, and it doesn't mean you're any less of a valued person. Okay? Anyway, yeah, so Lombroso he was obsessed with this one criminal called Giuseppe Viella, and that's what like kind of inspired him to take more research. And he found him that interesting that it was like, you know, chatting this guy up. He's like, oh, when you die, can I have your head? You know, just for studies. And like Viella's like, yeah, whatever. And so when he died, Lombroso conducted a post-mortem, and he found that the back of his skull was a unique shape similar to that found in apes for whatever reason. Okay? And that's what sparked this atavism, this thinking that criminals weren't quite as evolved within Lombroso's chain of thinking. So because of this, you know, the shape of your skull and etc., that's not something that you can change unless you get bludgeoned or something. He considered this to be proof that you could be born criminal or predispositioned to commit crimes, which it obviously is contested greatly now these days. There's a quote I'm going to read you, which he said, and it's a bit like, I'll read it to you anyway. He said, "At the sight of that skull, I seemed to see all of a sudden lighted up as a vast plain under a flaming sky, the problem of the nature of the criminal, an atavistic being, who reproduces in his person the ferocious instincts of primitive humanity and the inferior animals." Very poetic, right? It goes on. "Thus were explained anatomically the enormous jaws, high cheekbones, prominent superciliary arches, solitary lines in the palms, extreme size of orbits, handle-shaped or sessile ears found in criminals, savages and apes, insensibility to pain, extremely acute sight, tattooing, excessive idleness, love of orgies, steady on Lombroso, and the irresistible craving for evil for his own sake. The desire not only to extinguish life in the victim, but to mutilate the corpse, tear its flesh, and drink its blood. So, obviously from hearing that, you're thinking, what are you on about, Lombroso? Those kind of behaviours, eating the victims, mutilating corpses and stuff, that does link into some kind of forensic psychology stuff we're going to look at later on. And that's when we look at different types of serial killers or serial killer typologies. And that's where you get to like your lust killers and, they've lost that control. And perhaps lust and the hedonistic types of killers. But I'll go into more detail of that when we're looking at the forensic psychology stuff. So that's Lombroso, right? That's his chain of thought. What I would like to think, though, is that, we've advanced greatly since then, and we don't believe that people are born criminal. But, that's still open to interpretation. I don't know that. The thing about criminology and theories is that there are a lot of them, and in between all of that stuff, there might be little tiny bits of accuracy. It's important to know as well that no two criminals are the same. No two crimes are done for the exact same reasons. There are different things underpinning stuff all the time. I'm a big supporter of rehabilitation for people on drugs and alcohol and things like that, because there's a driver in there that's leading that person to do the stuff they're doing because they have to feed this habit, and that's something out of their control. Yeah, I know that taking drugs in the first place, it might have been a decision they made, but why did they make that decision? Were they coerced or controlled? Did they feel they had like no escape in life? Because no baby is born thinking, oh, I think when I grow up I'm going to be a heroin addict and I'm going to steal loads of stuff. It doesn't happen. Circumstances happen, life gets twisted for a lot of people. And that's where, hopefully, when you guys are in the police force and things like that, you can help make a difference to those people who are struggling. Okay? Anyway, back to Lombroso. So, as we know, Lombroso was obsessed with thinking you were born criminal because of the shape of your face. And I'm going to do a little test with you now and about other characteristics of your body. He also, by the way, developed the first lie detector test. This guy was big into his criminology and crime studies and stuff like that. And despite his strange thought processes, he did pave the way for a lot of thinking that happens now. And that's why it's really important that we mention these people. Like a lot of famous theoretical weirdos, this guy keeps his head in a jar, and you can go and visit that as well. At the Turing Museum, I believe it is in currently, but I'll find that out. Yeah, so you can go and see Lombroso's head in a jar. If you watched the video about Jeremy Bentham, you can also go and see Jeremy Bentham's auto icon, which is basically him stuffed in the Royal College of London. So if I die, guys, and it's not in a horrendous way, I don't really want to be stuffed and stuck in the college. Just, okay, that'd be super weird. You have that in verbal confirmation. Do not stuff me and stick me in college, or I will haunt you all. Okay. What I want you to do now, and you're welcome to judge me while we're sat here. I'm going to read down a checklist of things that Lombroso believed indicated that you were born a criminal. Okay, and this might be like, okay, and be honest with yourselves. Like, get a mirror out, have a check, look on your iPhone or whatever. So this is what I want you to have a think about, and I'm going to read them out to you now. So, an expressive face. I like to think I'm quite expressive. I smile a lot, Hi guys. Small eyes. So despite the sheer amount of eyeliner, which increases when I'm ill, my eyes aren't massive. I don't think they're small. I don't know. Let me know. Manual dexterity. That means you're good with things with your hands. I put a door handle on this all by myself yesterday. Yeah, so have I got manual dexterity? Probably, yeah. Large lips. I think my lips are kind of normal. I don't know, you might tell me different. Asymmetrical face. I think most people have asymmetrical faces. I certainly do. But that's because I've had my nose broken a couple of times. I'll go into detail a different time about that if you like. Acute eyesight. Tattoos. I've got lots of tattoos. Long arms, I guess, kind of. High cheekbones. I don't know, maybe. Flattened or upturned nose. I have a wonky nose. Like I said, I've broken it a few times. A large jaw, I don't think so. Large chin, not sure. A hawk-like nose, that's if it does that and it doesn't. Baldness, nope. There's definitely a lot of ginger hair there. A patchy beard. My beard's looking good. And crow's feet. Yes, I have crow's feet. And no, I'm not going to get any Botox. Well, I don't know. Never say never. Yeah, so have a look at those things I just read out. So I'm going to do it again quickly and just check how many you've got. Expressive face, small eyes, manual dexterity, large lips, asymmetrical face, acute eyesight, tattoos, long arms, high cheekbones, flattened or upturned nose, large jaw, large chin, hook-like nose, baldness, patchy beard, or crow's feet. Whew, big list, right? Then I want you to see how many you've got. So give yourself a score. Or if you're doing it about me, how many you think I've got. Okay, time's up. Yeah, it's a quick exercise. If you've got 4 or more, bad news, you're a criminal. Okay, these are the characteristics that Lombroso believed made you a criminal. Now let's break those things down. As I mentioned, I've broken my nose a couple of times, and if you do that, it's going to be asymmetrical, isn't it? That doesn't mean I'm a criminal. I'm covered in tattoos, but yeah, it's 2022. It's a long time since when Lombroso made his discoveries. Tattoos back then probably symbolised something a lot different to what they do now. But even then, that's kind of racist, right? Because there's so many cultures across the world who use tattooing to celebrate, coming of age, their familial ties and things like that. Oh, come on, Lombroso, have a word with yourself. Yeah, being good with your hands. What? Expressive faces. Santa's got an expressive face, Lombroso. What you saying, pal? And if you look at a picture of Lombroso, put one there. It's kind of, I think he's bald. He's got kind of big lips. Maybe he's trying to tell us something, Lombroso, did you do it? So anyway, yeah, this is Lombroso. So the atavistic theories of crime. That he thinks you could be born criminal, and that by looking at you, they can tell if you are a criminal or not. And also by what types of crimes you commit based on how you look. I mean, we're drilling right down into it now. In terms of those characteristics, he did pigeonhole them into certain types of crime. He thought a thief, for example, would be really good with the hands, so manual dexterity. They'd have an expressive face, small, wandering eyes. Really? It's not a cartoon, Lombroso. He also believed that murderers had cold, glassy stares. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe someone's just a bit depressed, you know what I mean? Bloodshot eyes and a big hawk-like nose. And apparently rapists had jug-type ears. I mean, really? Really? He did say about women, criminals, and I don't know if he's talking about his personal preference here, I don't know, that they would be smaller and wrinkled, quite like more ruthless than male criminals, more lustful. And he kind of thought that women, in relation to crime, only kind of did stuff like shoplifting and prostitution, which I think tells us more about what Lombroso thinks about women than it does about what he thinks about crime. He did say that women that committed crimes were more wicked than their male counterparts. Cool, thanks, Lombroso. Not that, they might be desperate and need food or anything like that, or they've escaped a very unhappy relationship and they need to commit crimes to survive. Forget all that stuff, Lombroso. Let's just judge people on how they look. So yeah, that's the first one in our biological theories of crime, looking at how people look and judging them, and can we really be born criminal? That's a question I'm asking you guys. Pop me a comment down in the comment section and let me know if you think people can be born criminal and what you think of Lombroso's theories of atavism and crime. Thank you very much. Stay safe and please don't commit any crimes.